What's up, sports fans? Welcome to another edition of the Buffoons Sports Talk. We've got three-fourths of the circus with us today. I've got Alex Campbell and Jake Hoffman with me. What's up, guys?
What's going on, Troy?
The
Excited to talk some basketball with you today.
Well, Alex looks surprised. So why? I was gonna ask why you were surprised. What happened there, big guy?
Well, you introduced us both, and then I thought Jake was just going to do his normal thing where he's like, "What's up, everybody?" And then I was like, "What's up?" And then Jake kept going, and I was like,
Oh, the chemistry was off today. So
"It's okay. It's been a while.
All right, guys.
We're not that crisp. It's okay."
we'll nail it down. We'll get it nailed down. We're good.
So today, one simple topic, right? The NBA playoffs.
I mean, if you can get it out.
Huh?
If you can get it out.
I mean, I was trying to brace myself because I'm super excited to talk about this. As I was saying. Okay, so can I continue or what?
Yes, go ahead, my friend.
Okay, thanks, guys. I appreciate that. So, NBA playoffs are going on, and we're halfway through. So I'm going to do something here, but we always just go right into it, whatever. I'm going to say two words. And you guys, at the top of your head, the first thing, Alex, I'm going to start with you. The first thing that comes to mind, just say it. 1, 2, 3.
It's a dangerous game.
Houston Rockets. Go.
Destruction.
Okay. Destruction. And how do you say destruction?
One word, right?
Huh?
You said just give you one word to describe it, right?
Well, it doesn't have to be one word, just the first thing that comes to mind.
Oh my God. Man, they've got a complete – D'Antoni should go to jail for what he just did. I mean, they give you full reign and you trade every piece of what you should have kept, go small as you can be, trade Chris Paul. I mean – and then D'Antoni leaves? He left. I mean,
yeah.
What? He just ran away. He's like, I'm going to try my system. And they're like, you know what, D'Antoni? No one's trusted you in 15 years to try this system. We're going to let you do it. And after one failed attempt of him going all in, he's like, oh, I'm out. Can you even believe that? He should do jail time for this. This is unbelievable.
So D'Antoni, in your mind, committed an awful crime and should get prison time, right?
I mean, obviously I'm being ridiculous, but it's just unbelievable. It's unbelievable. I can't believe what's going on there. I've said it all along. It was never his offense. I don't know why he's like, oh, I want to go small. We need to do that to win. No, what you needed to do to win was play defense. You can already score over 100 points a game. You proved that 15 years ago with the Suns that you could put up 100 every game. Let's come on. Play some defense.
Okay.
At least back then you had the excuse. I mean, at least back then you had the excuse of, hey, I mean, you did have to face two freaking dynasties in the Spurs and the Lakers, right? So at least you had a couple excuses to, maybe not come away with some championship runs, but I don't know. You have two MVPs on your team. Before that, you had Chris Paul on your team. I don't know how you don't do that. What comes to my mind is flashy, but underachieving,
Yeah, I mean, I think it's safe to say all three of us, and I'm sure if Phil was here, all four of us, we would be 4 for 4 on underachieving because for a team that had that much talent, come on, you got to do something. I believe it was 2018, they were up 3-2 in the Western Conference Finals against the Warriors. And then Chris Paul goes down and you end up losing the series. But failed attempts after failed attempts. And I just want to, before we go any deeper, I just want to throw one random stat out here. I know I don't want to make this a stat podcast, but this is a very interesting one to me. In the regular season, the Houston Rockets, when they shot 40% from three, they were undefeated. Didn't lose a game. Come playoff time, playing the Lakers, they win game 1. They shoot over 40%. Games 2, 3, and 4, they shoot over 40% and they lose all 3 of those games. Game 5, their elimination game, they shoot 27% from 3. So you're telling me they do and get everything exactly what they want and they still get ran out of the gym. So what does that tell you? Like,
it's so simple because at some point you just say, hey, if you want to shoot 40%, that's fine, but you ain't getting any buckets down in the paint, none, no points other than threes, and we're not going to foul you. So just, they're not going to only shoot threes. So obviously you're just going to protect that paint as hard as you can. You're going to defend the guys that you want to defend, Harden, Tucker, those kinds of guys. But you let Westbrook shoot threes all day.
Right. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but that's where I want to get into. It's like you have Chris Paul, who is a pretty good three-point shooter. He's not a great three-point shooter, but historically he's a good three-point shooter who can defend. So you've got the guy, ideally, that fits your system. You want a bunch of 3-and-D guys that can switch everything, and everybody on the floor can shoot. Okay. Harden doesn't get along with them. He goes to management and says, get Chris Paul out of here. I want to play with my good friend Russell Westbrook, who I've known since I was 9 years old. Cool. We get that. But for a system that does what it does, which is shoot threes and defend everything, why the hell are you getting Russell Westbrook, a dude that does neither of those two things? Neither. He does not defend, and he does not shoot the three. Every year since his MVP season, his three-point shot percentage has been going down, and he's a dismal three-point shooter. We all saw when the Lakers were defending them. They guarded almost everybody on the perimeter and said, okay, Westbrook, we're going to let you shoot threes. We're going to let you shoot threes, and we will live with it if you make them, because he's not going to make them. So, Jake, I just don't know where Houston goes from here. So D'Antoni leaves. You already have a system in place. It's not like you can trade. And I mean, they might be able to trade, but in your opinion, Jake, do you think there's something Houston could have done differently? I mean, where do they go from here? What do you think?
Well, I don't know that – look, I mean, if you've got a chemistry problem, I know it sucks when you're talking about one of the best players of all time, but if there is a chemistry problem, I don't necessarily disagree with making a move and getting somebody out. And I think in theory, the move to bring Russell Westbrook in was a good thought in theory, right? You just have to put it to the test, see if it works. And I think, it was entertaining in the regular season. There's a lot of cool times where, he's attacking the basket, slashing, opening it up for everyone else to shoot threes. They're dropping. It's super fun to watch when that's happening, right? But I think it just comes down to, like, anything else in sports, right? Like, defense is consistent, offense is not, right? There's going to be times in MLB where you've got a hitting slump. There's going to be times in football where even Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers are going to have bad games. But defenses are pretty consistent. They travel on the road well. I think that's the same thing in the NBA, right? And I think that I don't think anyone was expecting Houston to necessarily beat the Lakers or even go to the conference finals, but I do think that people were expecting the series to possibly be a little bit closer and/or have some of the games be more competitive. I mean, that elimination game, they didn't even look like they were there to play. I mean, that was we were there, right? And that was one of the most boring elimination games to watch, right? And that to me is another thing that I think needs to be talked about is that Harden's a great player, but I think there's a difference between leadership and being a really skilled player, right? So I think they need a good head coach that's got good leadership, very defensive-minded, and I think that's the only way to try to maybe salvage what you've got, because I think you do have to try to salvage what you've got. I don't think you completely blow this thing up. The NBA is not like baseball or NFL where you could rebuild a little bit quicker. I mean, it's a superstar league, so without them, you really are shit out of luck for a little while, right? So they've got those superstars. I still think you try to salvage it. You still try to get fans watching games, get them to the, arenas. But I think the only way to try to salvage it is you get a defensive-minded coach. I think a decent fit, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, Troy, would be Nate McMillan from the Pacers, right? I mean, it sounds like D'Antoni's even looking at the Pacers, so is Chauncey Billups. But, I mean, what would you think about a little, swap there, If, D'Antoni goes to the Pacers, we don't have to talk about that piece. But I mean, what do you think about Houston getting a defensive-minded coach?
So I'm going to answer, and then I have a question for Alex as well. Like,
I want to weigh in on this too, really quick too.
Go ahead. You go first, then. You go first.
I want to ask, did it really fail? I mean, when did he fully buy in? Halfway through the season?
Who? James Harden or
the Rockets?
Well, I mean, I think I think what you've got is you've got D'Antoni, who's been here for long enough time with enough talent that has not achieved nearly what they should have when you've had tons of different great players all time.
My question is, when did Tucker start playing the 5?
That was like
early on. I mean, first 20 games, right?
Well, they completely bought into the small ball rotation like February when they traded Capella. Because the team realized Russell's shooting a bunch of threes. We cannot have an 18 to 20% three-point shooter shooting threes. We need the lanes spread open, not with Capella in the middle, so Russell can do his thing, which is gets the paint.
I understand that, but they actually were pretty successful after that.
They were.
So it's not that it really didn't work. It's that they ran into the Lakers, who, in my opinion, are just a matchup nightmare for them. They've got like 4 guys that can shoot the ball that are over 6'8". That's a problem for someone that has no one on the court over 6'6" or 6'7", 6'8". Like that's a problem when AD can just dominate at will whenever he wants, when even Kuzma can get points on you when he almost wants to, because he's so much taller than anyone on the court. You just have to pull up.
Right. And like, to add on what you're saying, it's like, at the end of the day, basketball is about matchups, right? Like it's all matchups. If Milwaukee didn't play Miami, I think Milwaukee would be in the conference finals right now. But I think it's something we've all been talking about. We've all been beating the horse like, dang, I don't think Milwaukee wants to play Miami, because if they do, I don't think they're going to beat Miami. And sure as shit, they almost got swept. Yeah. So at the end of the day, it does come down to matchups. But along to what Jake was saying, like, Nate McMillan's interesting, but I actually think Ty Lue would be a good fit for Houston, because, like, you need a dude. You need a dude that's going to call people out. Lue's not afraid to call guys out, and he's also – I know he didn't run the defense completely when he was a head coach and with the Cavaliers, but when they did win their championship, I mean, for the most part, he was looking over that defense, and I think that is what Houston needs. Even though in the playoffs, Houston had the best defense statistically. Like, they were like first and second in multiple categories. So their defense did improve come playoff time. It's just, like, I think it's along what Alex said. It was just a really bad matchup.
Look, it just doesn't work. It just doesn't. I'm sorry. Like, I actually like D'Antoni's system of the run and gun. Let's go. But you've got to find guys that are 6'9" at least, maybe 6'10". The guys that aren't the big guys, but they can move. They're fast. They don't even have to necessarily score. That's why you've got Westbrook, Harden, and multiple other guys. You need at least 2 guys on that court that can at least contest shots down low, get rebounds, get some blocks down low. I mean, the Lakers have, like, I don't even know, but I don't even want to see it, to be honest with you. Let's look at all 5 games and see who had how many blocks compared to the other team. It would be embarrassing.
So I think a huge piece of this comes down to the fact that sports is moving in such an analytics direction. And I think that there's not necessarily anything wrong with that, except for that there are still pieces to sports that are not – these aren't computers out there competing, right? These are people. And so sometimes baseball tells you it's smarter to pull your reliever in. But, hey, your reliever may not be warm at all. Your guy out there dealing might have been the better option for that 7th, 8th inning. And I think sometimes the analytics might suggest that, going small, shooting threes is the way to go. But I think sometimes you still got to remember, like, analytics aren't always looking at 4-game series. They're looking at a big picture. They're not always looking at each individual matchup where, sometimes certain things may not matter. Certain variables may not be an issue at all for certain teams. for example, LeBron doesn't necessarily have to have great shooters to get to the playoffs probably ever, but to win, he probably will need some shooters, or to be able to compete at that in the conference finals or the finals, he's going to need to have some shooters, right? But there's a certain place that he can take you by himself. And anyways, I think that sometimes they're relying way too much on the analytics for like, hey, let's go small, let's shoot threes, especially seeing the Warriors do it. But I think that there are other things that you have to take into account. The Warriors didn't just do it because of analytics. They did it because, honestly, they got some guys on their team that are clutch. They've got, a coach, in my opinion, that I think adjusts better than D'Antoni does when they're down or when they're in a tough situation or managing personalities, right? Especially big egos. I mean, those are things that analytics doesn't take into account. And I think at the end of the day, basketball is a big man sport. I mean, you can run this theoretical idea of run it and shoot it from three all you want, as many times as you want. But at the end of the day, like you just said, Alex, if there's not a single guy on your team that's 6'7", and you got 3 or 4 guys that are 6'8", 6'9", even 7 feet, I mean, at a certain point, you're just going to sit there and collect offensive rebounds all day. And it's like, hey, I don't care if you are hitting from 40%. The ones that you aren't hitting, we're getting every single time. And when we're missing from, 3, we're rebounding it 70% of the time and putting that in for 2. So it doesn't matter.
Right.
So I think that's a huge piece of this as well. They need to shift. They need to balance analytics with the understanding of the game. And I think Bill Belichick does that really well. And I think even like the Rams and stuff miss out on some of that with
I mean, you're going to see Cam. The offense is going to be – if you watch clips from last year to this year, their offense is going to be completely different. And that's where, like you said, Bill's just amazing. But sorry, that was off topic.
But, I mean, you're still – yeah, off topic. But, I mean, Cam's not throwing deep balls like he used to either. I don't think he threw a pass over like 5 or 6 yards yesterday. But it's their system.
You said a key word in your statement, Jake, that I wanted to talk about, which is adjustments. The problem is when you're the Rockets or any other team and you completely adapt your team to only playing one specific type of way. When a team in the playoffs takes that away, which is what happens. In the playoffs, teams, especially in basketball, because you have at least four chances, teams take away what you are best at. So at that point, you have to, like you said, adjust. Houston's not able to adjust. They have to play one type of way. And when a team takes that away, what do you do? And that's what happened with the Lakers. The Lakers lost game 1, and then after that, they won 4 in a row because they figured out how to play against the Rockets. And it's like this whole thing where they say, we only shoot threes, we only go for layups, and we only shoot free throws. We don't shoot any mid-range jump shots. The problem with that, a defense can not easily, but it's easier to defend only 2 positions on the floor rather than 3. So I do agree with analytics, but at the same time, this is when analytics are false, because a defense has to play you closer, tighter, further away. They have to adjust to 2-point shots as well. So I just don't know what Houston does, but I did hear something. I heard a trade, like a really nice possibility. Someone close to actually Damian Lillard on Twitter the other day posted something, and I heard this on Brian Windhorse's the Hoop Collective podcast today. He said, Damian Lillard's close friend said, what if the Rockets traded Russell Westbrook straight up for Blake Griffin? And then I kind of thought about it, and I was like,
you run Harden at the 1 the whole time? I mean, like he should be anyways.
But I'm just like, the Rockets need a finisher. They don't have really anybody that can finish. Like, and especially, do you put, like, let's just say hypothetically, you put Blake at the 5, right? I think you play a small hybrid lineup and you put Blake at the 5. The only question is, where's Blake's health? He's coming off knee surgery. He was great in 2018, right? He led his team to the playoffs, but it's like I'm just spitballing ideas because I'm trying to figure out what Houston can do. Like, they're out of draft picks. They're capped out.
It would be beautiful if he wasn't hurt all the time.
Right.
It would be, but it's just not. Man, if he could stay healthy, I would take that trade all day if I'm the Rockets. Like, if I'm the new coach coming into this system, I would take that all day because,
dude,
you already got
Portland. I wouldn't do that.
The 3, you don't need Westbrook, and honestly, you need a guy in the hole like that. Like, you need someone that can keep up with your offense, and Blake's athletic enough to at least keep up with your offense. I think it would be a smart call. I'm just not that high on Westbrook, though. Maybe I'm crazy, but I would probably take that trade to get rid of the contract, too. You would get pieces back in return, too, because Blake's been so hurt. We know Westbrook. He just, he's worth
Troy,
more.
could you imagine Westbrook and Melo on the floor, like jacking up threes? Like, that'd be terrible, I feel like, for Portland. I feel like if they did sign Westbrook, they'd have to cut Melo instantly. I don't think you can have.
Well, you
I
mean
don't think there's
Detroit?
place
You mean Detroit, right?
Blake Griffin.
Wait, what'd you?
Right.
No, I said Blake Griffin.
You said it. Oh, yeah. Sorry. I thought you were talking about a three-way. Okay. For some reason, I was thinking you were talking about Westbrook. I misunderstood.
Not talking about on the pop shots, dude.
Talking about two or?
Yeah, it's
actually. Aren't we talking
situation? They're trading one right there. One.
Isn't that three pop shots though? Because it's Detroit, Portland, and Houston.
No.
Oh, Jake, what are you not getting?
Okay, but Jake, remember, back in Oklahoma City, like 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, I don't remember what it was. They tried the Melo, Westbrook, Paul George experiment out. That did not work out.
That was terrible. I know. That's what I'm saying. You just couldn't do
Jake,
that. Like
he said, Russell Westbrook straight up for Blake Griffin, and I'm sure there'd be other pieces that would come along with Blake because.
Yeah, no, I was misunderstanding for a second because I thought you said a friend close to Damian Lillard, and I was thinking of the Trailblazers, and I was misblaking Blake Griffin for big guy on there from Miami. So I totally got lost there and now look stupid. So we're good.
No, man, I've really been thinking about it all day. Like I've just been trying to think like, okay, where do they go as far as well, no, I've been thinking about that since like this weekend. But like as far as just today, I mean, where do the Rockets go? It's like they have over the course of the next 3 years, they have $235 million tied up into Westbrook and Harden. Like, you can't trade Harden unless you're like for sure trying to go into rebuild mode. You got to trade Westbrook, right? I mean, like what else? But at the same time, who the hell wants that contract? Like,
yeah, I honestly don't think they're going to find an easy time dealing Westbrook, to be honest. I think most of the analytics tell you that's not the way to go. I think most of his gameplay on film would show you that's not the way to go. He takes terrible shots at the end of games. He's not clutch. He turns the ball over. That first game he came back, he turned the freaking ball over against Oklahoma City at the end of the game.
I don't know, man. I think he's a perfect fit in Detroit. He's like Detroit, in my opinion, has always been known as like they're supposed to be like a tough team. And I'll be honest, Russell Westbrook plays tough. I will not discredit him for how hard he plays the game. I might think that his style negatively affects his team, but he plays the game very hard with a lot of tenacity. So I don't know, man. I think if you're them, you don't want to give too much, but Blake Griffin and like maybe someone else that's not that important to you, kind of just ship them off. It might not be a bad idea, to be honest with you. What else do they have?
I mean, I would top of my head. Oh my God, it goes to show how long I haven't been following the Pistons for.
But bottom line, I think James Harden should be playing the one. I mean, I think it comes down to that. I think that's been part of the bad fit the whole time is that he's a ball dominant guy. You've got players like Chris Paul who plays the one, who that's taking the ball away from Harden. You bring in another guy like Westbrook, ball dominant guy. I think that's part of the issue too. Harden's already shown, man. Like, and quite frankly, I'll just be honest with you. I don't know. There's that many times where like I want Russell Westbrook with the ball instead of Harden. He's so much more dangerous that like I feel like if you're the defense and James Harden's got the damn ball, you've got to plan for him way more than you've got to plan for Russell Westbrook. Because Russell Westbrook, you're like, cool, I'll just keep a couple of feet from you, take the three all day long. Like you're not afraid of that, right? Whereas if Harden's directing traffic, I mean, he can score on you from three. He can just step back and shoot it. I mean, I got excited. The Reds just hit a 3-run home run and took the lead. So, and they're doubleheader. So I got a little excited too. Give me a little shimmy.
I agree with you. Like I would like to see Harden playing the one. I mean, he played the one how long ago? Like a few years back, and I think he averaged like don't like quote me on this, but I think he averaged like close to 10 assists. So it's like it's not like he's a bad point guard. Like he can distribute the ball. It's just if that's the case, how else do you fill the rest of your team out? They have no depth. They're one of the oldest teams, if not the oldest team in the league. No draft picks, really. Capped out. They were even thinking about maybe letting go of Daryl Morey, their GM, this was the guy's idea. He's a vastly analytic dude who believes strictly in analytics. And that being said, him and D'Antoni were the perfect fit. But now D'Antoni leaves. Where do you go from here? Because D'Antoni was the perfect possible guy for that position, I feel like.
I'll tell you where you go. I'll tell you right now.
Where?
You trade James Harden and Russell Westbrook for multiple picks and just small average players, and you go into complete rebuild mode. It's your only option.
Man, I hate that. I hate that in the NBA. I like it in baseball. I like it in the NFL. I hate it in the NBA because, there's those picks. Man, those picks hardly ever result in anything good. And if you don't nail a superstar like Luka Doncic with one of those picks, if you don't nail a superstar, you're done. Like you lost the trade, in my opinion, in that one.
The only thing that I can.
But you're
going
to get fans and seats at least, and sell jerseys and make money as an organization, and at least be entertaining and.
Barely. You think they're buying jerseys right now?
I mean, maybe Harden's because he's a good guy, but still, I mean, they made it to the second round of the West. I mean, look, I mean, it's not terrible. There's only two teams in the West that you can really just sit there and arguably say, like, yeah, they're better. And honestly, you may not be able to say the Clippers are better if they fucking blow this game. So.
I just mean, it's just – I don't know, man. You also had Kevin Durant go out last year in a series, and the Rockets still couldn't get it done. And it's like, I'm not going to completely blame D'Antoni and Daryl Morey. I also blame James Harden. Because as much as I love James Harden, I love him as a basketball player and I love him as a human being especially. But at the same time, I've seen so many plays where the guys on the offense are just moving the ball around the perimeter. Harden's at half court just standing there. And I'm just like, you got to be involved somehow. Stand in the corner, act like you're getting the ball, do something. It's kind of like what you were saying at the beginning, Jake. I don't think Harden's a great leader. And excuse my daughter, she's screaming. That's why I felt Chris Paul was so perfect. He was the guy that kept people in line, held people accountable. I don't know, man. I don't get the Rockets. I just don't get them. But
yeah, I don't think you trade both pieces. I think you've moved Westbrook if you can. I don't think anyone bites on that personally. I think you take Westbrook or you trade Westbrook if you can. But I don't know, man. In the NBA, at the end of the day, I'm like, yeah, the Suns didn't win a championship, but as a Suns fan, I'm glad they didn't fucking trade everything away and suck, for an additional 5 years before. I mean, it's hard to ever say we got good again because we really haven't, but until just maybe now, that's still arguable. But you know what I mean? I'm like, hey, that was the last time the Suns were good. And so I'm like, hey, if you're thinking about the Rockets in that situation, it's like, dude, you may suck for the next 10, 15 years, man. You may not be at the same level you're at for 15, 10, and that is tough. I mean, it's tough because, Troy, growing up, we were Suns fans, right? Because they were good. We grew up in school, right? Kids right now growing up in Arizona, man, they're probably not Suns fans because they fucking suck. And so, that's tough, too, when you're thinking about long-term for your business, your organization, is you got to make sure you're relevant in your area, too. So
I know what you're saying. I get it. And there's multiple options you can go. But you're saying it's going to take 15 years before you're good again? I'll tell you right now, with this team and with no picks and the situation they're in, they're not winning a championship ever in the near future. So
that's okay. If I'm the owner of the Rockets, I would rather be
Then they're going to have to rebuild without a superstar because Harden's going to be old. Westbrook's going to be old. They're not going to have anyone. They're not going to be able to get anything for him. So now you're talking another 15 years. So you're talking 5 years more, so 20 years.
I mean, not necessarily. Not if you suck for a season or two and get lucky and one of the top 3 picks in the draft, you get it, and it's
they're not
superstar.
You're not going to suck though.
No. But they might. No, I'm talking with Harden retires and I'm talking like you look at the Suns situation,
That's
man. Okay, let me tell you this. It would have been a better business move for the Suns to have been competitive for the last 10 years, but still not win a championship than to be as fucking bad as they have. You know why? Because dude, you go to a Phoenix game, there's not nearly as many Suns fans there as there are the other team that's there. That's not good for business. I don't care who you are. That is bad for business.
That's fine. And I'll tell you right now, the last time the Lakers went to the playoffs was like 7 years ago. And they're probably going to win a ship this year. I don't give a fuck if my team's like that good that year. I'm talking, I want to see effort to win championships.
Well, yeah, not everybody is a Yankees and Lakers fan and has, 40-something championships to gloat about, you cocksucker.
I'm still a Raiders fan. Like, I understand pain, okay?
Ask me. I'm a Rams fan. Before 3 years ago, they were bad for like 12 years.
I have other teams I like too that suck in other sports, so it's not the end of the world. I mean, I get it, Jake, but my point is, and I'm just saying that, yeah, it's good to be relevant and be good, but if you know, and it's good to be relevant and be good when you know, hey, man, we got some picks coming up next year, and we already have a good lineup. They're just stagnant now. They're in the no man's zone, dude.
I agree with you if it's the NBA I agree with you if it's the MLB or the NFL, not in the NBA, because one player can impact a game so well and because it is so much harder to find superstars in the NBA than any other sport. So that's my closing argument on that one. So, and
go fuck yourself.
Well, fuck your Lakers and fuck your Yankees.
Okay, any last thoughts before we wrap this up, guys?
Other than fuck the Lakers and fuck the Yankees, I got nothing. And actually, really, not even fuck the Yankees all that much. Like, I don't like the Yankees, but, I don't hate the Yankees. I don't like the Lakers, man. They can go to hell.
Buffoon Sports Talk. Subscribe. Hit that bell.
Like and share.
Yes, sir. And stay tuned for within the next few days. We're going to be hopping on tomorrow and recording another episode on the first week of the NFL. So, like what the guy said.
Catch you guys next time.
Yep. Subscribe.
Later.